She cleaned the floors everyone walked on, even the man who would one day kneel for her. Treated like trash, mocked by the elite, was that the most feared and unreachable CEO of that empire would fall in love with her. The same girl the rich heiress wanted to destroy at any cost. Ignored like she didn't even exist, she was just the poor cleaning lady at the company. Is that real love doesn't care about bank accounts? The one only noticed when someone wanted to humiliate her. The whole world had to watch the most powerful man in the room bow down to the woman they once swore would never be worth anything. His name, for the woman in a worn-out uniform everyone looked down on. But what no one ever expected. And when their love began to bloom in silence, the elite shook. He challenged everything, his family, his fortune, what no one knew. And when the truth came out, she cleaned the floors everyone walked on, even the man who would one day kneel for her. Humiliated, ignored, treated like she was invisible. She was the poor cleaning lady in $1 million company, where no one even knew her name. Every day, she swallowed insults, stumbled over looks of disgust, and still, she kept going, dreaming of a better life. On the other side of that cruel world, there was him. Leon, the coldest, most powerful CEO of the corporation. Heir to an empire where weakness wasn't allowed, and love with someone from her level was unthinkable. But fate doesn't ask permission. It put them in the same place, at the same time. And right there, without anyone knowing, a forbidden love began. Strong enough to destroy reputations, families, and fortunes. Because when the heart decides, no money, no last name, no pride, can stand in the way. And this story is living proof of that. She never had a choice. From a young age, Hannah learned that life wasn't fair. Raised in a poor neighborhood, in a house where rain leaked through the broken roof and cold wind slipped through the cracks in the windows, she grew up carrying the weight of her parents' absence. Her father died young, trying to pay off debts that weren't even his. Her mother, worn down by life, got sick and passed away, without even leaving a smiling photo behind. Hannah's life was made of quiet losses. But what she didn't know was that her biggest challenge was still ahead. Determined to survive, Hannah dropped out of school early and took whatever jobs she could find: kitchen helper, waitress at small diners, and eventually, a cleaning lady in big companies. She didn't care about the label. As long as she could pay rent for a tiny room and have something to eat. But the company she worked for now was different. JM Group, a billion-dollar conglomerate, was the kind of place where people in uniforms were treated like they didn't exist. At first, Hannah tried to blend into the shadows, ignoring the judgmental stares of executives walking by in expensive suits and shoes shinier than the windows she scrubbed. But over time, she realized being invisible wasn't enough. Rich people always found a way to crush those below them, even if just to remind everyone who was on top. Among those people, one in particular seemed to enjoy humiliating her. Melissa Kong, the spoiled heiress of the group. Dressed in designer clothes, sharp heels, and a smile as toxic as her expensive perfume, Melissa loved turning Hannah's smallest mistakes into public shame. A misplaced cup. A hallway not shiny enough. Anything became an excuse for cruel jokes. "Do you really think you belong here with that trash face?" Melissa once said in front of everyone. As Hannah held a heavy bucket and tried not to let the tears fall. Each time she was insulted, Hannah stayed silent. She didn't want to lose her job. She didn't want anyone to see the fire she kept hidden behind her tired eyes. But deep inside, something was burning, a bitter feeling of injustice that grew stronger every time someone treated her like she was less than nothing. And then, fate brought Leon Young into her path. Leon wasn't just the most powerful man in the company, he had a presence that made entire rooms fall silent. Young, a billionaire, and completely intimidating, he was used to people bowing down around him. But Hannah didn't bow. She avoided looking him in the eye. And that sparked something strange in him. The first time their eyes met, Hannah was cleaning the main hall. A group of executives walked past, almost knocking over her bucket, and Melissa laughed like it was a joke she planned. But right then, Leon stopped. His dark eyes locked on her, watching how she lowered her head, trying to hide her pain and shame. Something in the way she gripped the broom. Like it was the only thing keeping her grounded, caught his attention. Hannah didn't know it yet, but that moment changed everything. In the days that followed, Leon started noticing her more. Not because he wanted to, he wasn't the kind of man who paid attention to ordinary people. But there was something about Hannah that challenged him, something he couldn't explain. Maybe it was the way she carried her dignity, even in simple clothes, while facing daily humiliation. Maybe it was her silence, a silence that somehow spoke louder than words. And meanwhile, Melissa noticed too. And if there was one thing Melissa hated more than poor people, it was losing Leon's attention. The war was about to begin. The news spread like wildfire through the halls of JM Group. The new CEO would take over that week. Some said he was arrogant. Others called him a young genius. But everyone agreed on one thing: he was ruthless. A man who made enemies before even shaking hands. His name was Leon Young. At 31, he had already turned bankrupt companies into empires. Son of one of South Korea's most powerful families. He studied in London, got his MBA at Stanford, and worked in Tokyo's financial sector. But more than all that, Leon was known for one clear trait: he trusted no one. His return to the family company, now as CEO, was more than a promotion. It was a calculated move. He wasn't just there to lead. He came to clean up the mess left by former executives. His arrival meant change. And for an elite used to power and comfort, change is always a threat. On his first day, he didn't give long speeches. He simply walked through the headquarters, calm, silent, and confident. The air shifted around him. Melissa's loud heels suddenly sounded muted. Older directors were sweating, even with the air conditioning. Young assistants exchanged nervous looks, wondering what it would be like to work under such a young and attractive CEO, with eyes cold as stone. As Leon walked the halls, Hannah was right where she always was, quietly cleaning the glass of a meeting room on the 8th floor. That's when she heard whispers from a group of assistants: "He's coming, it's him, the new CEO." Curious, Hannah turned slightly, still holding the cloth in her hand. And that is when she saw, for the first time, the man who would change her life forever. Leon wore a dark custom suit, and his shoes shined like they had never touched the ground. His hair was perfect, his features sharp, and his expression said one thing: he didn't ask. He decided. His eyes didn't wander. But in that moment, he stopped. Hannah had accidentally bumped into her water bucket while turning, soaking the hem of his pants. She quickly tried to wipe it with her cloth, embarrassed, but before she could run, a deep, calm voice spoke: "Are you okay?" She froze. Not because he spoke, but because his tone was gentle. Her eyes met his. And for a moment, there was silence, a moment far too long. Sorry, sir. I'll leave now." "Did you hurt yourself?" She shook her head, looking down. He didn't press. He just stood for a second longer, then walked away. It was quick. Just a brief exchange. But something about it stayed with Leon. He was used to fake smiles, to women trying to impress him, to people bowing out of fear or interest. But that girl, she simply existed. And for some reason, that challenged him. Over the next few days, he started noticing her more. Not because she tried to be seen, quite the opposite. Hannah avoided him every chance she got. But the more she ran, the more he saw her. He began to notice how she treated others with kindness, even when they insulted her. How she wiped windows like they were the only thing she had control over. How she apologized when it wasn't even her fault. Leon wasn't romantic. He grew up with contracts, numbers, and power, not flowers or feelings. But something about that quiet figure stirred a strange curiosity in him. Who was she? Why did she carry so much pain on her shoulders? Why did no one see her, and why, of all people, couldn't he stop seeing her? Meanwhile, the rumors began. The new CEO seems different. I heard he's into someone at the company, someone from HR? From management? But no one, absolutely no one, imagined that the woman in question was Hannah. The cleaning lady in the worn-out blouse. The one who never ate in the cafeteria and always left 10 minutes after everyone else. No one, except Melissa. Melissa Kang was everything money could buy. Beauty, status, luxury, and pride. Since childhood, she was told she was meant to marry a powerful man. And Leon had always been her mother's top choice. You're perfect for him, Melissa. You're from the same world. He needs someone at his level, and he needs your family. Melissa believed that. So when she saw Leon's eyes pause on the girl she loved to humiliate, she knew something was about to break. And when a rich girl's pride is wounded, the game stops being classy. It turns cruel. If Hannah was invisible, Melissa Kang was the center of the universe. The only daughter of one of JM Group's biggest shareholders, Melissa was born with a silver spoon in her mouth and raised to believe the whole world revolved around her. Everything about her was calculated: her haircut, styled by international designers, her outfits, a mix of high fashion and arrogance. Her fake smile that only showed up when cameras were near. But the thing Melissa wore with the most pride, even more than her jewelry, was her belief that she was above everyone else. Especially people like Hannah. She already knew the cleaning lady. She knew her name, her routine, and exactly how to hurt her. To Melissa, humiliating someone like Hannah was a way to feed her ego. It was a sport, and Hannah was her favorite target. But what used to be fun turned into a threat the moment she saw Leon Young's eyes land on Hannah. Melissa had already decided, years ago, that she would marry him. Not because she loved him, but because he was everything she wanted: power, status, a strong last name. Their families had once been close, and even though things were tense now, she believed a strategic marriage could rebuild that old alliance. She was beautiful, rich, well-connected, and smart. Of course Leon was supposed to choose her. But Leon didn't see her. She tried. She walked past him whenever she knew he'd be there. Made up meetings. Left subtle gifts in his office. Sent gala invitations. But Leon treated her like everyone else: polite, professional, distant. And then one day, she saw it. Leon, standing in the hallway on the 8th floor, watching someone carefully. But it wasn't her. It was Hannah. Hannah, the girl in the faded uniform. The poor girl who ate alone, who left late, who had no famous last name, no followers, no presence. The same girl Melissa loved to step on, now had the attention of the man Melissa thought she had already claimed. In that moment, something shifted inside Melissa. It wasn't just jealousy. It was panic. A deep, twisted humiliation. How could someone like her be ignored because of someone like Hannah? From that moment on, Melissa started a quiet war. First, she turned up the volume on her cruelty. She created situations to embarrass Hannah in front of others. Like the day she'd accidentally spilled coffee on Hannah's uniform, then yelled at her in front of the entire board, "You can't even carry a tray right. This is a company, not a homeless shelter." Then she started influencing others to exclude Hannah: little whispers, fake smiles, cold stares in the cafeteria. Hannah could feel the shift, but didn't understand why. Or maybe, deep down, she just didn't want to believe it. But Melissa wasn't done. She used her power in HR to try and transfer Hannah to another branch, farther away, out of sight. She used her last name to manipulate reports, fake performance reviews, and push for termination. But Leon saw it. He saw everything. He already suspected Melissa's intentions, but this targeted attack crossed a line. For the first time, he spoke up. "Melissa, don't use my name to justify your games," he said in a private meeting. She tried to hide her rage. "I just think someone like her ruins the company's image." Leon stared at her, cold. What ruins the company's image are actions like that. It was an emotional slap. Melissa, so used to being treated like royalty, felt her face go pale. That day, she realized two things. First, Leon was definitely interested in Hannah. Second, she couldn't stand to lose. That's when the war stopped being silent. Melissa went straight to Leon's parents. Planted lies about Hannah. Said the girl was flirting with him, trying to manipulate him, take advantage of her position. She hinted that Hannah had a dirty past, that she had a thing with a former boss at another job. Then came the rumors. Inside the company, Hannah's fragile reputation began to crumble. Coworkers stopped making eye contact. Supervisors grew distant. Pity turned into judgment. And still, Leon moved closer. And the closer he got, the more Melissa unraveled. She became obsessed. Spying on Hannah's every move. Watching who she spoke to. Digging through her social media. One day, she even followed Hannah to her boarding house in a poor neighborhood, and took pictures to use against her. But she couldn't bring herself to show them. Not yet. At that point, Melissa wasn't driven by jealousy anymore. It was a poisonous mix of bruised pride, class hatred, shattered ego. And an uncontrollable need to prove that. No matter how unlikely it seemed, love still belonged to the powerful. But she was about to learn something: not every heart plays by the rules of the elite. It was a Friday like any other. Or at least, it seemed like it. Hannah arrived early at the company, just like always. It wasn't even 6:30 a.m. yet, and she had already cleaned half of the main hallways before the first employees showed up. That was her routine. While the city slowly woke up, she was already in survival mode. But that day would be different. As she reached the 15th floor, the executive level, Hannah found an uncomfortable surprise. A huge table had been set up for a meeting coffee break, with porcelain dishes, white flower arrangements, and crystal glasses. She frowned. "No one told me about this setup," she whispered to herself. Just then, the assistant from the department, visibly annoyed, pointed to the clock and snapped. "The meeting starts in 10 minutes. If you're not done yet, hurry up. And don't touch anything with those dirty hands." Hannah swallowed the insult. She was used to it. She started organizing the silverware, replacing napkins, and carefully straightening the chairs around the big table. Everything was going fine, until a voice cut through the air like a knife. Well. The cleaning star decided to shine in the rich people's room. It was Melissa. Wearing a designer red outfit, high heels, and dark lipstick, she entered like she was walking a runway. Right behind her, two equally rich, equally cruel friends. "I hope you washed those hands before touching the company's dishes," one of them laughed. "Maybe she's trying to impress someone upstairs, huh?" said the other. "Maybe the CEO," Melissa added, looking directly at Hannah. "But he only looks at you because he feels sorry. People like him don't mix with trash." Hannah didn't respond. She kept arranging the plates, trying to ignore the humiliation. But her face was red. And her eyes were starting to fill with tears. Feeling superior, Melissa decided to take it further. She picked up an expensive porcelain cup and, right in front of the people arriving for the meeting, let it slip from her hand. The cup shattered on the floor. "Oh no. How clumsy of me," she said dramatically, giving Hannah a mocking look. "The floor must be wet from the cleaning lady. That's probably why, right?" People exchanged glances. No one laughed. But no one defended Hannah either. The silence was complicity. Hannah immediately crouched down to clean the mess. Her hands were shaking. Melissa walked closer, crouched next to her, and whispered in her ear, "Do you really think you can compete with me? Look at yourself. You're just a background extra in your own life. Don't forget your place." Before Hannah could finish picking up the broken pieces, Leon walked into the room. The already tense atmosphere froze. He walked toward the table with steady steps. And when he saw the scene, Hannah on the floor, on her knees, fingers bleeding, and Melissa standing with a triumphant smile, his face tightened. "What happened here?" he asked, voice calm, but sharp as steel. Melissa, quick to react, smiled and stepped forward. "It was an accident." The cleaning girl slipped and dropped the dishware. "I tried to help, of course, but..." Leon looked at Hannah. She didn't speak. She was just collecting the shards, a thin stream of blood running down her finger. He walked over to her, crouched down, and gently took her hand. You cut yourself, he said softly, pulling a handkerchief from his pocket to stop the bleeding. The whole room went quiet. The way he touched her hand was too intimate. Too careful. Melissa turned pale. I'll take you to the infirmary, he said, helping Hannah to her feet. Someone clean up the rest of this, please. Without waiting for anyone's approval, he left the room with Hannah by his side. It was the first time he exposed himself. The first time people clearly saw that Leon Young looked at that cleaning girl with more than just politeness. It was concern. It was care. And for Melissa, it was the first time she tasted the bitter flavor of rejection. When the door closed behind them, something cracked inside her. It wasn't the porcelain. It was the control she thought she had over everything and everyone. The humiliation she had planned for Hannah had flipped against her. And that day, which began like just another Friday, became the start of an all-out war. A war where love, pride, jealousy, and past wounds would begin to twist and collide. A war where someone would have to lose everything for the other to win. Since the day of the public humiliation, something invisible had changed between them. There were no declarations. No obvious gestures. No confessions. But there was something. A quiet thread connecting Leon and Hannah, and no matter how hard they tried to ignore it, it only grew stronger with every new encounter. For Hannah, it was confusing. The most unreachable man in that golden world now knew her name. He knew her schedule. He knew when she got hurt and took care of her with his own hands, in front of everyone. That didn't happen to people like her. People like her weren't seen. They weren't noticed. They were never remembered by someone like Leon Young. But he remembered. And more than that, he showed up. He started appearing more often in the same hallways where she worked. Sometimes she wondered if it was coincidence. Other times, she knew it wasn't. He started small conversations, like they were casual. Is your hand okay? You always arrive this early? Why do you always smile when you greet people? Little questions, said in a low voice, with focused eyes. She answered hesitantly. Sometimes she avoided him. She was scared, not only because what was happening was socially impossible, but because her heart, something she had guarded for so long, was starting to fail under his gaze. And it wasn't just his gaze. It was the way he listened to her. Like the whole world disappeared when she spoke. Like her existence, simple and invisible to others, mattered to him. One afternoon, while replacing the dried flowers from a meeting room arrangement, Hannah heard footsteps. When she turned around, Leon was there. No suit, no tie, his sleeves casually rolled up. He looked less like a CEO, and more like a man. It's getting late, he said. I'm almost done, sir, she answered, not able to meet his eyes for long. You can call me Leon, he said gently. She hesitated. He smiled, as if he already knew she couldn't. I shouldn't be here, she whispered, more to herself than to him. Maybe I shouldn't either. But still, here we are. The silence that followed was heavy. Warm. Full of words neither dared to say. He walked closer, stopping less than a meter away. He picked one of the wilted flowers from the vase. Sometimes, something simple is more beautiful than everything else around it, he said, looking at her deeply. She didn't reply. But something inside her broke, not from pain, but from surrender. A part of her, long buried, began to believe again. But the world around them wasn't as blind as they pretended it was. Rumors began to spread, disguised as curiosity, but dripping with poison. Did you see how the CEO looks at the cleaning lady? He walked past 3 floors just to stop where she was. She must be doing something. Maybe he just feels sorry for her. And more than whispers, there were eyes. So many eyes. Hannah felt the weight of judgment in every step. The other employees started avoiding her. Some supervisors changed her shift. Melissa, especially, pushed harder with her mockery. One day, as Hannah stepped out of the elevator, she came face to face with the heiress. Melissa smiled, fake and cold. So, besties with the CEO now? Maybe he's into charity cases. Hannah tried to walk away, but Melissa grabbed her arm, squeezing it tightly. Don't forget, you're just a mistake. You don't belong on this floor. Or in this world, she whispered. Hannah pulled away, eyes full of tears that refused to fall. But deep down, Melissa was right. Hannah knew it. She didn't belong in that world. And even if Leon showed he cared, it was impossible. Or, was it? The following week, Leon discreetly called her into his office. For the first time. She refused. Said she couldn't, someone might see. But he insisted, not with force, but with kindness. When she entered, she froze. The office was huge, surrounded by glass, with a panoramic view of the city. But the scariest thing was being there with him. Alone. No excuses. No masks. Why are you doing this? She asked, finally. Doing what? This, to me. I'm just, me. Leon looked at her for a moment. That's exactly why. Because you're just you. And no one else is like that. She felt the ground vanish. I can't, she whispered. I can't let myself believe in something that's not real. What if it is real? She shook her head. Looked down. And since when does something true need permission? She walked out before he could say anything else. From the moment Hannah turned down the chance to be by Leon's side, the world wouldn't leave her alone. It was as if, by refusing that feeling, she had lit a forbidden flame, one that couldn't be put out. No matter how much she tried to stay away, people around her kept closing in. Not to support her, but to crush her. The rumor was no longer a whisper. It was a roar. The whole company was talking, the cleaning lady and the CEO. Some said it was a lie. Others claimed she was seducing him. Some even thought it was a PR move by Leon to look humble. But no one dared to think that maybe it was love. Melissa, on the other hand, was sure this was a personal attack. After the incident in the lobby, after the wilted flower moment. And especially after overhearing the conversation through Leon's half-open office door, where he said, "No one else is like you," Melissa lost all control. The pride of a wounded heiress is like poison, it acts slowly, but once it reaches the heart, it kills all reason. She no longer saw Hannah as an employee. Or even a rival. She saw her as a walking insult. An offense. A threat that had to be erased. And that's exactly what she tried to do. Melissa launched a calculated campaign. Cold. Surgical. First, she went to HR and made a concerned request. She asked them to review Hannah's behavior. Said she had been acting strangely, distracted, distant. Mentioned there were rumors that she was flirting with the CEO. That maybe, she was taking advantage of Leon's position. Then, she spread the same narrative across departments. Worse, she used her influence with other shareholders' daughters, managers, team leaders. She didn't need to raise her voice, just her eyebrow. Hannah. The cleaning one? I heard she has a way of getting close to the higher-ups, said a third-floor supervisor, while pouring coffee. Some people really do offer themselves, and then call it love. Another one laughed. In the bathroom, in the cafeteria, in the halls, the words stuck to Hannah like thorns. She felt the stares follow her. The muffled laughs when she passed by. The whispers that died the second she turned her head. But worse than the gossip was what came from above. Hannah was called in by the administrative director. With a fake polite tone, he asked her to sign a formal warning for inappropriate conduct during work hours. Confused, she asked what she had done. He just smiled. There have been concerning comments, Miss Hahn. Maybe you should stay in your area and avoid interactions with upper management. It's just a suggestion. Hannah left the office with trembling hands. And that's when she understood. She was completely alone. In the days that followed, her badge stopped working properly. Like someone was restricting her access. The maintenance room, where she kept her supplies, was always locked before she arrived. Her breaks were shortened. Her workload doubled. But she didn't complain. Not because she didn't feel it, but because if she said something, they would win. But Leon noticed. He called Hannah in to talk. Again. She hesitated. "They're doing this to you because of me, aren't they?" he asked, directly. She looked down. Silent. "Tell me. Who's pressuring you?" "Everyone," she replied, voice low but steady. "But not because of you. Because of what I am." Leon stood up. Took a deep breath. "No," she said instantly. "If you do, they'll say I'm protected. That I'm using you. That you're being manipulated. Hannah, let me fight this my way." He looked at her. Not at her, but at the system crushing someone like her, a system he had helped keep alive. That same week, Melissa made her final move. She organized a corporate event with the company's biggest shareholders. And personally requested that Hannah be assigned to clean before and after the event. And during the president's speech, her own father, in a room full of executives, cameras, and journalists, Melissa accidentally spilled a glass of red wine all over her white dress. With a shocked expression, she shouted, "Hannah! Are you blind? Look what you've done." Every eye turned to Hannah. She hadn't even touched Melissa. The accusation had been made. The image had been stained, both literally and socially. Before Hannah could defend herself, Melissa turned to the cameras and said, "This employee has caused me problems before. I hope the company takes serious action this time." The next day, Hannah was summoned to the legal department. Her job was officially on the line. Leon was about to break the silence, the rules, and his own legacy, if he had to. Because in that moment, he knew he would either save Hannah. When Hannah walked into the legal office, there was no doubt everything had already been decided. The papers were printed. The lawyer's expression was far too neutral to be friendly. The HR manager avoided eye contact. It was a trial with no judge. A sentence with no defense. "Miss Han is being formally dismissed from her position," the woman said flatly, sliding the paper across the table. The accusations, though not confirmed by video, were supported by multiple testimonies. The company has chosen to protect its public image. Hannah didn't answer. She didn't cry. She didn't ask for an explanation. She already knew. She knew this wasn't just the end of a job, it was the end of a hope she had dared to believe in. She signed in silence. Picked up her worn-out backpack, her deactivated badge, and her dignity folded tightly into her pocket. Outside, it was raining. She took the stairs down, all 15 floors. Each step hurt. Not physically, emotionally. It wasn't just about losing her job. It was the bitter taste of injustice. Of silent humiliation. Of being punished for knowing, even briefly, what it felt like to be seen with love. Leon found out about the dismissal the same day. And when he did, he exploded. "Who approved this without going through me?" he asked, voice sharp, eyes piercing the boardroom. No one answered. "Who used my absence to punish someone based on gossip?" Silence. Until one board member dared to speak. "With all due respect, Mr. Young, your involvement with this employee has already started damaging the company's image. Miss Kong warned us. Given your position, and your family's, we believed it was the right thing to do. Right?" Leon cut in with a bitter smile. Right is punishing a poor woman who was harassed? Right is firing someone who never got a chance to defend herself? Another director spoke, "The issue, Mr. Young, isn't just about Miss Han. It's about you. About how your actions affect shareholders, contracts, inheritance. Your father is upset. Your mother threatened to pull her name from the foundation. And the rumors, they're already in the press." Leon stood up. Grabbed his jacket. Walked to the door. And before leaving, he said, If being CEO means I have to ignore my conscience, then maybe I'm not the CEO you need. And he left. That night, he went looking for Hannah. He found the modest boarding house where she lived, far from the city center. There was no doorman. No elevator. He climbed the 3 flights of stairs, shoes soaked from the rain. Knocked on her door. Once. Twice. 3 times. She opened. Her hair was wet. She wore an old hoodie. Her eyes were tired. But to him, she looked beautiful. "What are you doing here?" she asked softly. "Looking for you." "You shouldn't." "And why not?" "Because they already did what they wanted. They got rid of me. They kicked me out. And if you keep looking for me, they'll do the same to you." "Let them," he replied, steady. She looked down. "You don't understand. I'm just a cleaning lady. And you're the heir to an empire. I never should have let you get close." Leon stepped forward. "And I never should have let you leave that room without knowing that, for the first time in my life, someone made me feel human." She cried. But not from emotion. From pain. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "I know. Life won't allow this. But I will." "You'll lose everything, Leon." "And what is everything, if I lose you?" She hesitated. Her heart was screaming. But her mind was still trapped, by reality, by fear, by the world that had always crushed her. "I can't be the reason for your downfall. I already carry too much. I don't want to be the end of your story." He reached for her. She pulled away. "Go, Leon. Please, before it gets even worse." He wanted to stay. But her eyes begged him not to. So he left. He walked away without saying goodbye, down the 3 flights of stairs with a heart heavier than his soaked shoes. And once he reached the street, he looked up. She was still there. Standing at the window. Silhouette behind the thin curtain. They both knew this was goodbye, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. That night, neither of them slept well. He, in a penthouse far too empty. She, in a tiny room that had never felt so suffocating. There was no official breakup. No speech. No fight. No clear ending. Just the realization that the world wasn't ready for them. But fate. Fate hadn't said its final word yet. 2 years had passed. But for Hannah, each day still carried the weight of a memory she tried to forget, and couldn't. She started over from scratch. Moved to a new neighborhood. Got a job at a small bookstore, where she spent her days between dusty pages and customers who treated her like a real person. She lived in a simple but clean apartment. There was a vase of daisies on her windowsill and an alarm clock that played calm music at 6 a.m. On the outside, she looked fine. But on the inside, a part of her was still frozen in the moment she closed the door and told Leon to walk away. She never reached out. Never looked at his social media. Never called. And even though her heart screamed, she forced herself into silence. Because she truly believed, with every part of her, that it was the right thing to do. His world was just too big for someone like her. But the truth was, his world had never been the same since she left. Leon kept his word. He gave up the title. Cut ties with the board. Stepped down as CEO and returned to the luxury apartment he had lived in for years. He started again, from nothing. He built his own investment firm, small, clean, ethical. It grew fast, quietly, far from the spotlight. And though he was richer than ever, he was also more alone than ever. He turned down elite invitations. Ignored Melissa's calls. Changed his number. Disappeared from society pages. But he never stopped looking for Hannah. He even visited the old boarding house she once lived in. The woman at the front desk told him she had moved out. Left no contact. He once sent a book with a note, "For the one who taught me to see beyond glass windows." He never knew if she got it. And then, one ordinary day became the most extraordinary. Hannah was leaving the bookstore when she heard a voice behind her. "You still smell like wilted flowers." She froze. Turned slowly. Leon was there. 2 years later. More mature. Slight beard. Slightly longer hair. But the same eyes. The same intensity. "How did you find me?" she asked, voice shaking. "I stopped looking. And then you appeared." She gave a sad smile. "You shouldn't be here." "But I am." She hesitated. She wanted to hug him. But held herself back. What if everything happens all over again? It won't. How can you be sure? Because this time, it's us. And I'm not afraid to fall, if I'm falling with you. Silence. "Do you still love me?" he asked. She took a deep breath. Her eyes full of tears. "I never stopped." And then, he smiled. Not a triumphant smile. A relieved one. Like someone who found something they thought was lost forever. In the days that followed, they started seeing each other slowly. Long talks in the late afternoons. Walks through quiet streets. No luxury. No pressure. Just presence. Just two hearts learning to recognize each other again. Leon showed her his new company, small, but full of potential. He told her he wanted her to be part of it. Not as an employee. But as a partner. An equal. "I don't want to protect you, Hannah. I want to walk beside you. Learn from you. And build something where no one has to hide." She said yes. Afraid. But brave. At their first public meeting as partners, the media exploded. Former JM Group CEO reappears alongside ex-fired employee. Forbidden romance becomes independent empire. The love that defied the rich. Melissa saw everything on TV. Alone, in her penthouse. Surrounded by luxury, and by nothing. She tried calling. He didn't answer. She tried scheduling a meeting. He declined. And when Hannah's name appeared on the cover of a business magazine as the woman who rebuilt the most powerful man in the country, Melissa cried. But Hannah didn't feel revenge. She felt peace. The peace of surviving. Of loving without being bought. Of being humiliated, and later respected. Of losing everything, only to gain something real. And so, when she found Leon again, it wasn't the end of pain. But the beginning of something that neither money, nor the elite, nor the rumors, could ever destroy. Hello, welcome back. It had been 2 months since Leon and Hannah publicly announced their relationship. 2 months since their picture together graced the cover of every major newspaper, sending shockwaves through the city and beyond. 2 months of blissful peace for them. They were making headlines. But no longer as a scandal. Now, after their reunion. The story that once echoed in hushed tones through the halls of JM Group had become a source of inspiration. Leon and Hannah, the CEO who gave up his empire. And the woman everyone used to humiliate, were now the duo behind a revolutionary new company, JH Invest. A business built on ethical principles, social impact, and above all, humanity. But for the two of them, real success wasn't measured in money. It was in finally being able to walk hand in hand, without hiding. Even as the majority shareholder, Hannah stayed the same. She still bought cheap flowers to brighten the office. She still crouched down to listen to interns. She still hugged the cafe workers like family. And Leon, now he smiled. With his eyes, his body, and his soul. Yet despite this new beginning, they both knew there was a wound still left to heal. Not between them, but with the world that once tore them apart. So Leon decided to do something symbolic. Something no one expected. During the annual financial sector event, attended by investors, CEOs, and public figures, Leon was invited as the keynote speaker. Hannah didn't want to go. "You know they'll whisper, right? They'll look at me like I'm still holding a mop. Then I'll hold that mop with you, if I have to," he said. That night, the venue was packed. Flashes. Champagne. Designer suits and dresses. Hannah walked in with her head held high. She wore a simple, dark blue dress with no sparkle. Hair tied up, light makeup. She didn't need anything more than her own dignity to shine. Leon took the stage. The lights hit him just like before. But his voice now sounded different. Stronger. Softer. Free. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I won't talk about numbers. Or growth. Tonight, I want to tell a story. The story of the strongest woman I've ever met. Someone who taught me that real worth isn't in a last name or a salary. It's in the courage to keep going. Even when the world tries to erase you. And if I'm standing here today, it's because she didn't let me become just another arrogant man too afraid to feel." The room fell silent. For a long time, I lived in fear of my own feelings, afraid of what people would say. But I've learned that nothing is more powerful than loving someone truthfully. Even when they say it's wrong. Even when they say it's impossible. Then he stepped off the stage. Walked through the crowd. And stopped in front of Hannah. She was already crying. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Got down on one knee. And there, in front of the same cameras that once helped humiliate her, he asked, "Hannah Han, will you build the rest of your life with me? In your way, in your time, and with all the freedom you deserve?" She didn't answer with words. She simply knelt down too. And hugged him. Both of them, on their knees in the center of the room. Showed the world that real love doesn't bow to pressure. Doesn't go silent in the face of prejudice. And doesn't give in to humiliation. The audience applauded. Some out of respect. Others out of shame. But all in recognition. From that day on, Hannah was no longer the cleaning lady who caught the CEO's eye. She became known as the woman who challenged an entire system with dignity, silence, and love. And Leon? He was no longer the heir. He became the man who had the courage to give up everything, just to hold one hand. They didn't get a fairy tale happily ever after. They got something rarer, a real love. Imperfect. Built on ruins, but strong as stone. And that no one could ever take away from them. The end.
Hey, did you like this story? Then hit subscribe to Between Lies and Love so you won't miss the next chapters. Don't forget to like this video. It really helps us bring you more emotional, anime-style K-drama stories. And I want to know, what was your favorite part of this story? What do you think we could do better in the next episodes? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one, and your idea might even show up in the next video. So subscribe, like, comment, and join this family that loves drama, twists, and unforgettable stories.